Today we got our own executive order establishing this Bitcoin reserve that we've been hearing about for so long. But there is an asterisk to this whole thing, okay? And that is why some of you guys may be wondering, if we got our Bitcoin reserve, why did Bitcoin go down? If you look at it, this right before, we were like hovering around 90. Bitcoin reserve came out, 91. And then boom, we dropped all the way down to 84. And now we're kind of hovering around 88. So obviously this looks like we're doing a V-shaped recovery. So, this could be due to a couple of things. Number one, the whales, again, doing their thing, trying to make people scared into thinking this is not a good thing. And, they caused a whole lot of longs to get liquidated, and now they're buying back. So we could be back in the 90s in no time. That can be number one. Number two, some people are not that excited about what was signed. Okay, that asterisk I'm talking about. So, what is that asterisk? Well, yes, even though we did get a Bitcoin reserve, this is not according to what we've been hearing about, what Senator Loomis was talking about before. And what about that crypto reserve, right? What about everything outside of Bitcoin, including Sol, XRP, Cardano, right? What happened to them? Well, David Sachs actually broke the news today. He tweeted this out, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but to sum it up for you guys, basically, they are going to take that 200,000 Bitcoin that was confiscated from Silk Road, right? Remember, some of it was being sold off before last year, and we were like wondering why it was being sold off. It seemed like right before Trump got elected. Well, that is being taken from the Department of Justice, and that is being put into the Bitcoin reserve. Okay, so the 200,000 that are left, they will not be sold off. That's great. That's great. Now, in addition, the task force, or I don't know the task force, but like the Treasury Secretary and Commerce Secretary, they are authorized to develop a budget-neutral strategy for acquiring more Bitcoin, provided that those strategies have no incremental costs on taxpayers, which means that what we heard before about purchasing up to 1 million Bitcoin, 200,000 per year, up to 1 million, that seems to be out the window now. Okay, there's no set schedule, there's no set amount. This is basically taking what the government holds already, putting in the reserve, making sure that it's not sold. And also telling these guys, the new Treasury Secretary and Commerce Secretary, to basically try to develop a way to acquire more Bitcoin without costing anything. That's going to be hard. I don't know how they're going to do it, right? Maybe like if they confiscate it from other projects or from hacks or something, if they somehow can recover Bitcoin, they could put in a reserve, but it just doesn't mean that they're actually going to spend money to buy Bitcoin. Hey, maybe these are smart guys. Maybe they can figure it out. Maybe they can acquire and buy Bitcoin without costing taxpayers. But that's why, I think some people, they didn't really like what was said about this because this didn't go according to plan, right? Not the 1 million Bitcoin that's been talked about. Lutnick also talked about the 1 million Bitcoin. Loomis has been talking about it. Saylor has been talking about it. This does not talk about acquiring 1 million Bitcoin. But, these are smart guys. Again, they may figure something out. Right now, it just seems like this is more optional than mandatory. See, because it's worded are authorized to develop budget neutral strategies. It's not worded like they are mandated or they have been tasked to do so, right? So the wording of it makes it seem like it's optional. Now, the second part of this, they call it the U.S. digital asset stockpile. So it's not the crypto reserve. It's just the Bitcoin reserve. And then you have an asset stockpile. And that stockpile is what will be holding Solana, XRP, and Cardano. Okay. It doesn't even mention ETH. ETH is probably in there too. So this is unlike the Bitcoin part. This is, first of all, the US government doesn't have any. So there's nothing to put into it. Okay. But unlike Bitcoin, they're not going to develop budget neutral strategy to acquire these assets. They will simply take them through forfeiture proceedings, okay? Meaning that, hey, if they are confiscated for some malicious reason, then they will take them and then put it into the stockpile. But there is no mention about buying these assets. There's no mention about buying SRP or Sol or Cardano, right? Now, it could be, when they say forfeiture proceedings, I mean, it could be like donated too. Maybe Ripple wants to donate a whole lot to the stockpile. Maybe Solana or Cardano, if they have a treasury, they can donate some, right? But it doesn't look like they're going to be buying any. So that's the thing. So yeah, so that's the gist of it. Again, you guys could read it yourself. I read it. I had Grok read it. And basically, to sum it up, it's taking what we have in Bitcoin, putting it into reserve, making sure it's not sold. Optional to develop new methods to buy more Bitcoin without costing anything. And then if there's anything else that's seized or confiscated, it'll go into that digital stockpile rather than be sold off, I guess, right? So that's the alternative. Yeah, so that was announced. So that's why we had this happen, right? Again, it could be whale games because ultimately this is better than nothing. Remember, we had nothing before. All previous cycles, we didn't have anything like this before, okay? So this is still better than nothing. And Saylor will be attending that White House summit, right? And you have some big powerhouse players going. And they're all going to be talking. They're all going to be like coming up with ideas. And that's why I think maybe something gets announced today that could be just as big, if not bigger, than the executive order for the Bitcoin reserve. I mean, if you look at this list, it's full of project leaders, exchange CEOs, just Michael Saylor, and a lot of VCs as well that represent a whole lot of projects. And you can see there are a ton of people that will be there. And they'll all be talking to David Sachs and Trump and Besant and Lutnick and everyone else. And you know what? Something else huge could be announced today. Or maybe not. Maybe nothing gets announced today. But overall, this is very, very positive because they're all going to be sharing their ideas and thoughts. And it's going to be productive one way or another. But I do think there will be something else that's announced today. It's all building up towards that. And David Bailey, the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine and Bitcoin Conference, who is going to be attending, he also thinks that China now is doing the same thing as the US because they have a large stockpile of Bitcoin that they confiscated. They're going to use that to make a strategic reserve, and they're going to figure out how to acquire more. So it's starting already, right? And look at the countries around the world that have some Bitcoin. Of course, US leads, China second. You got UK, Ukraine, and Bhutan, and El Salvador. That's up there. And soon you're going to have many, many other countries with more. And this is just what we know of. Many other countries probably do have more, and we just don't know. Brian Armstrong thinks that basically many of the G20 nations will follow, if not all of them, right? So this is all great. Today, I think we're going to hear a lot of things being announced, and it's going to be good. It's going to be absolutely good. Even if I'm wrong and there's nothing announced, the fact that these leaders are all together talking to Trump and Sachs, sharing their ideas, is going to lead to some good things, for sure.